Hello, how are you? This is Sethorna here for DC Legends on the Daily Grind. I'm doing my alliance missions for this week, featuring Bizarro as the 5-point character. He was made available for everybody through the PvP week, the week before, precisely. So if you uh, played at all for the last week, there are quite big chances that you were able to at least unlock Bizarro. He unlocks at 25 shards, and I was able to earn 50 shards of him. So I got myself a nice rank 3 Bizarro to use this week. And I'm planning, since this is the lobby account, he's making my life easier, which is something that I keep insisting on. Don't worry too much about not getting a legendary character right away, because you are better off having a wide roster that you are able, since you are a newbie, to work on it little by little and gearing several tombs at once. In fact, one problem that you have at low levels is that you have a surplus of materials, of XP agents, of essence, and sometimes even gold. You are able to save gold rather easily when you are low level. But this is not representative of what the game is like at high rank, and I'm seeing this in posts all over the place. Guys asking who should I focus on, who should I work on, why is this event so difficult, and so on and so forth. And this is because they chase a high rank character, but they stay low level and they stay low gear, and the game is very easy when with all the mechanics that have been introduced over the past 2 years. The game is very easy when you are low level. Maybe you aren't able to rank right away on top 5k PvP, but you're certainly able to rank for 70 and for 50 and 70 shards. That's easy to do. That's very fast. You can do it with even a gear 2 character, so that's not even a day of work. I measure progress by the time that you have to invest in a character, and since the grind, quote unquote, once you have access to large amounts of speed force, it amounts to just pushing a button. Once you have your 3-star nodes, either on story, in normal, or in heroic nodes, the grind doesn't take a long time. The only thing that takes time is doing the monthly events or the heroic challenges, because you have to sync manually. You have to play manually. Well, even if you press the auto button, you have to stay there on the screen until it finishes, and that takes a different amount of time. But it takes time also when farming materials. That's the grind. Investing time farming materials if you haven't gathered enough speed force to use it, or you consider that it's too expensive to use a speed force, then you have to do it manually. But the game itself is very quick, and I'm only playing these PvP fights manually because Bizarro is still gear 4, and he dies rather easily because I'm facing harder characters. Now that my whole main team is full gear 6, the PvP fights and the red alerts, they are not impossible, but a character that is not gear 6 is underpowered versus the computer. So this is why I'm doing this manually, and the artificial intelligence has some very odd choices regarding affinity and threat prioritization, because for example, this is a mainly green team. If I had programmed this game, I would have made it so if my team is built of green characters, majorly green characters, and there is a single blue character on the opposing team, I would make the artificial intelligence focus the blue one to get rid of it, even if there are reds around. And this one doesn't. You can have a full green team versus a single red and 3 blues, and they're going to focus on the red first. There's not a hierarchy for threat assessment when the computer is playing your tunes, and defense plays different from offense anyways. So that was the point. But as you can see, even with just Gear 4 Rank 3 Bizarro, I'm being able, since I'm low level, to bring him right away into my main team. And today is Tuesday, so I'm going to be able to farm the materials needed to bring him to Gear 6, and I'm going to bring him to Gear 6 just to have another option. However, I'm going to push before the end of this monthly event to have a full Gear 8 team, a main team of full Gear 8 that is focused on finishing the red alerts. Why? Because I'm going to park this account for testing purposes on Gear 8 and level 49. Like, for example, this, what I was talking about before, threat assessment. This is also important for newbies. I have an affinity advantage over the enemy team, but if this were a fight at Gear 10 or Gear 11, supposing I never farmed anybody else besides Bizarro, Sod, Satana, and something, and this was my main team, and I were to face that bot team, but at Gear 10 or Gear 11, Cheetah can one-shot most greens when she is Gear 10 and Gear 11. And there's no way around it. Even if they have a ton of agility up, the main attack of Cheetah is so strong, and she has a high critical chance that she will be able to down one of my characters, and she's probably going to go before most of my team, because this team I'm maining is real slow. So you have to divert attention from your other characters and focus on getting rid of the most dangerous one. Now, since I'm mainly blue and green, I don't have anything to fear from Luthor, Sinestro, or Bane. Now that I have taunted with Bizarro, Bizarro is always faster than Bane. Bane is not going to be a problem right away, but Cheetah is able to put a strength ups on the enemy team. Sinestro and Bane benefit greatly from strength ups, and Luthor is sufficiently slow, even at highest gear, that you can deal with him separately. For example, now that Cheetah is gone, I can self-buff with Soth and then attack right away. I have seen people say that self-buff, the legendary upgrade, increases the duration of the buffs by 1. I've seen people say that it's not as useful. Well, if I had my sword upgraded with his buff, he will have killed Luthor and he will still have buffs for the next attack. So since he has a great chance of getting a lot of turn meter, usually buffing with sword it's a safe bet, because even if you don't get the turn meter, he is on the slow end of the fast characters, because at the highest gears he ends up above 110, and that's fast. The guys at 110 and 116 are the slowest, fastest characters. Anyways, so even at this low level, once he has a bit of gear on, he starts outpacing a lot of characters that he is designed to counter. He can outdamage Bane, because Bane might become crit immune, but he still takes damage. And this Bane is a kind of character that General Zod is built to counter. I have seen people say also that the basic upgrade for General Zod is bugged, because he applies the heal immunity after doing damage. Well, on my main account, I have Zod upgraded with his passive and his self buff, and his next upgrade is going to be his basic. But I'm pretty certain that he's made to counter this type of characters like Bane that get crit immunity. Why? Because once they get crit immunity, they still take damage, and Zod is still has a high critical damage. And most of the time, because this game is programmed very weirdly, I haven't been able to test it, but I have this theory that he will be able to put the heal immunity on tanks even if they have the crit immunity, or at least on characters like this that have a ton of HP that he won't be able to kill right away, like for example Doomsday. Even though Doomsday has a ton of counters, but there are compositions that Zod does very very good against. He does very well against certain compositions. This is not one of them, but for example, even Wonder Woman Defender led team with Wonder Woman Defender as leader, she self-heals when she taunts. So cannot one-shot Wonder Woman Defender, and he is at disadvantage with Affinity. But if he is able to put the heal immunity, and this is something that bears mentioning, toons with heal immunity on their basic are rare. Even if it's gated through an upgrade, through a legendary upgrade, like Terra was. Terra used to need the upgrade, but well, I believe it was for the can't miss, but now she applies heal immunity on the basic. And that's big, because that way, even if you are enraged, even if your character is silenced, you still have that heal immunity available at all times. And now that It wasn't the case before. When the game started, healing wasn't just not viable as a strategy or a team composition because you didn't get time to use the heals. Um, but now that healing is done passively for the most part through mans or like enchantress that she throws heals through a passive skill. Having heal immunity handy is very very useful. And but if you have it on a skill that can be denied through silence or through enrage that forces you to use your basic, then it's not that useful anymore. Having heal immunity, the Mera has heal immunity on a great move that does more damage the more mans that are casted on your team. But if you silence Mera, she is next to useless because then even though she does a lot of damage and she kind of self heals because she applies mans on herself using her basic, you are denied the strategy of using the heal immunity whenever you like or when you actually need it. It's one of the reasons I choose certain characters to use. I have always defended Swamp Thing when people brought him down because he was very slow and he didn't do a ton of damage. But he applied mans and he applied crit ups on his basic. That is a character that can be used in a call assist composition, and even if he is enraged or silenced, he can still be useful. Now, what makes Swamp Thing great nowadays is not the fact that he still puts mans and he still puts crits through his basic, but the fact that he gets to attack out of turn. That's what makes Swamp Thing great. And it makes him great because he attacks out of turn with his basic. So you can actually force him to give a lot of buffs to your team. Because waiting until Swamp Thing dies, so he puts an awareness on the whole team and gives a medium heal and puts 5 mans with his upgrade, is not really that great. If you are banking on the enemy team killing your Swamp Thing on round 1, then you don't have a very sound strategy because nowadays the res abusers like Jessica Cruz and Deathstroke, well, they just don't have the same way they used to have. You can't abuse them that much. Jessica Cruz a bit. Jessica Cruz, you can abuse to a certain point, but she is somewhat easily manageable, given that several blues can one-shot her. But you shouldn't base your strategy. This is also something I'm reading a lot lately on the forums. Like, deaths and revivers shouldn't penalize the trophies, given the whole PvP debacle we are going through right now with the guys that choose to stay low gear and low level scoring more than the guys that have full leveled and full gear characters at high rank, which I agree it's stupid. The game rewards players for gimping their teams on purpose. But also this, you shouldn't be rewarded if your strategy is to have your whole team killed. That's the end of it. I believe there's no discussion there. If your whole winning strategy depends on 3/4 of your team dying, then why should you get a 3-star score? Even if the characters revive, because Grundy can revive infinite times if the dice roll the way they should. And Doomsday can revive twice, and Atrocitus can also revive himself and the whole team forever if the dice are favorable to you. If you get it right, because it's all chance. If you get the right chips on the casino, if the things roll your way, then it doesn't matter. And that's something I was going to propose in one of the posts. Now I'm doing it on video. What about if we put a time limit on this? I had seen it before proposed as a turn limit, like you only get 50 turns to kill the enemy team. I believe that's far too limiting, and it punishes the turn meter accelerators, like Steppenwolf. When you have Steppenwolf from a high crit team, then you get more turns, so you will run out of turns faster than the enemy team. But what about time limit? Because I have been playing DC Unchained, and that's completely different, but since that's on real time, and even the automated PvP there has a time limit, they increased it a little in the last patch. So now we get two full minutes to try and kill the enemy team, and sometimes it's just not enough, since you have to kill 3 characters and everybody can self-heal. It was 1 minute and a half. They increased 30 more seconds for every PvP match, but it used to be, well, that's a high roller there. Just 3 evasions, and might as well 1 miss, 2 misses, and that's because we're at low level. Evasion is overpowered at low level anyways. But what about we also implement a time limit for PvP? And we get to choose our defense composition. That's something to think about. Not just the scoring. There has to be a way to validate defensive compositions that are designed to waste time, like a heavy healing composition. I hate my cat, by the way. He distracts me too much. I love him, but I hate him. He likes pussy. Literally likes pussy a whole lot. He just nowadays he just returns home to eat, sleep a little, and off he goes to conquer the street. Anyways, where were we? Oh yes, limits. Ways to make PvP more interesting. I would prefer, I have always been a defendant of a skill-based PvP. Even if this is turn-based, I feel that turn-based doesn't have a lot of merit skill-wise, because it really depends on you unlocking the right characters. If you don't have access to the whole roster or to the full roster and to the precise skill level or upgrade level, then it's not so much how you play, but if you were able to get shards for a certain character. But still, after suffering an embarrassing defeat by one of Subha's teams, yes, once you reach the point where everybody has everything unlocked, then we can talk again about skill. And once we reach that true level of meta game, when you are going to design a team, a quick example, like the current Batgirl meta. That meta game really relies on people not having a way of can't miss. The Batgirl-led teams rely on the people attacking you not having access to a can't miss attack, or having to ramp up, and meanwhile your retaliations are going to be making short work of the opposition. But if you have access to a can't miss guy like Deadshot, for example, and now that you can have a solid green team that can't miss on their basic, that Batgirl team is not going to be so hot, because Sod doesn't need to buff up to have access to the can't miss. Terra doesn't even need a legendary upgrade anymore to have access to a can't miss basic. If you have Cyborg Superman and you choose to not use the boulder, then he also has a great basic that is able to crit real hard, and you don't need to rely on a Steppenwolf anymore, because Harley is going to enrage one of my characters. Well, guess what? None of your characters can miss with their basics, which is the problem with an enrage, that you are forbidden to choose your skills. The Batgirl meta doesn't take a skill to design, because it doesn't really has synergy. It just so happens that Batgirl gives evasion to everybody, and Harley has a round zero taunt and gets a ton of evasions, so she's almost impossible to hit, and she has a small but irritating chance of enraging your whole team before the fight starts. So it's really Batgirl and Harley Quinn Matt Jester, and putting Wonder Girl in there is just to prevent Steppenwolf from being used. But if you don't have to rely on Steppenwolf, that whole team falls apart, and that meta is going the way of the dodo in a couple of weeks now. Because, for example, if you put a Hired Gun Deadshot as leader, as leader, then Sod is going to have his first attack as a critical, and he gets, I believe, 50% extra critical damage on all his moves through his passive, and he can't miss with any move. So he's going to go for Harley Quinn, and then Deadshot is going to go right after, and he's going to take care of somebody else because Deadshot also can't miss with any of his moves through a passive. And once Harley Quinn is gone from the field, then you can attack anybody because Batgirl gets invisibility, but nobody else on her team does. That's the difference between designing a team like that horrid. Well, I'm not certain if it's Subas, but it's a goddamn awful team to face that looks so easy when you see it on your board because it's all blues and it's Vixen and it's Aquaman King and I think it's Constantine, but he's not leading, and somebody else. I don't remember exactly who, but that fucking team gets so much turn meter per action, and they get crit immune through Aquaman King, and you get bleeds all over the place. And Aquaman, once there are bleeds in on the field, and he has mends, he just gets turn after turn, and he keeps bleeding and bleeding and bleeding you, and sometimes stunning. And then there are so many bleeds on your side that then Vixen starts using the Rhino, and you get stunned, and they just keep piling bleeds on you, and you can do anything about it. You say, oh well, I fucked that up. I went with a full red, so that's not the way to go. I'm going to go with the Princess of Themyscira lead, and I'm going to put the buff immunity on everybody. Yes, but that's only one turn. And Aquaman still goes before Princess. And if there is anybody who gets more than 4 debuffs on your team, then she can purge them. And it's horrible to fight a team like that. It's very, very difficult. I haven't come up with a strategy to fight that. I'm certain that somebody else out there already has a sure way to 3-star that fight. But that's an awesome fight that makes you think. The Batgirl meta is just throw a lot of overpowered characters in a single composition. And since not everybody or the majority of the players doesn't have the counter, then I'm going to win the defensive every time. And I'm ranting again. And my video has gone from me. But anyways, there are many things that we can propose, that we should analyze, that we should channel to the depths. But you have to keep in mind that balance doesn't mean when I win it's fair and when I lose it's unfair. That's why I have never said that the Batgirl meta is unfair. Most of the meta teams are not unfair because they have counters, but they need a very specific counter. I believe that gameplay is unfair when even if you have the right counters to a strategy, it's an uphill battle. And I feel there should be more variety in the meta game. And I believe that reworks for the basic characters should bring them not up in power, but in utility. I feel that, for example, Lex Luthor Assault Warsuit, he will be, and he was for a time, he was one of the main counters for Batgirl, for Mad Jester, because he has a can't miss skill that also puts strength downs, and it puts a lot of strength downs on Hardly. So even if none of your other characters can hit through the evasions, then you don't have to fear the retaliations as much, because she's going to have a ton of strength downs, so she won't hit as hard. But sadly, Assault Warsuit was removed from the PvP packages, and now he is impossible to get. Well, he was the price for the Silver Banshee thing we just had, the showdown, but that's not nearly enough for a guy who doesn't have, for example, like this account, that I don't have access. I really don't have access to Red Lex Luthor. So that in a way is unfair. But I have access as a new player to Soth, and I will eventually be able to upgrade Deadshot to the point where he has his leadership. And once I have both together, even if I am a new player with low rank characters, I will be able to counter the Batgirl meta. But meanwhile, here at low rank, I have no problems. I am able to feel whoever I want. And I believe that's how high rank should be. You should be able to feel whoever you want, even Superboy or even Blue Beetle and Yellow Sinestro, who, believe me or not, has his uses. Specifically, he is also a great counter for Harley Quinn Mad Jester. I ran out of energy. Because if the enemy is taunting and he has his basic upgraded, then he purges 8 buffs, which is usually enough to get rid of all the evasions and the taunt on Harley Quinn. But anyway, I tend to digress a lot, but here's something else I wanted to show you. My low level account is able to score way higher than my high level account, because since I can stay low level and low gear, I can feel whoever I want and I can consistently score on the PvP side of the alliance. So today my low level account is going to carry this 2-man alliance, because that's Thoran is my main account, Test Newbie is the one I'm using right now, and I'm leading the score, and that's some guy that joined us, or joined me, because I'm the only one left on the alliance. And I again open up the invitation if you feel that you are being pressured a lot on your alliance and you don't have a wide roster so you can get high scores. Come join Injustice for All. That's Injustice 4 with a number. I don't impose limits of times you play per week or a score. You are free to leech, but of course, if you participate and if you put your grain of sand to the cause, then it becomes much easier to get the high rewards for the day. Anyways, that was all for the daily grind. I'm seriously going to try to focus more on a single subject, but this is also something that we have to channel to the devs. They have to listen to us. They have to do something for this game. This game is great. Not in theory, in practice is great, but we are running out of things to do at high level. They can introduce cosmetics and that will be fine. That's also something that has to be introduced. They have to introduce some way to set the whales apart from the plebes. A little something next to the login screen here. Something, a symbol here, an insignia that says that you have spent money on the game. I was proposing in another video that didn't record properly. Maybe, just maybe, change the way. Come on, load. Change the way that the stars on the rank look. That if you have your monthly tune and you got him to rank 4, during his monthly event, his stars are like this, yellow. But if you bought the stars, I don't know, maybe turn them blue. And if it's legendary from the monthly event or his original PvP week, mark the stars as purple like they are right now. But if you bought the shards, turn them yellow or golden or silvery, I don't know, something that sets them apart. That is also helpful for everybody else, because if you know if a guy bought his shards, for example, a guy starts right now and he didn't play the Power Girl event, but he buys his shards and he gets a Legendary 5 Power Girl. Currently there is no way to know if the guy just didn't have the Legendary Essence needed until today. Not that it makes any difference, but at least you know, oh, this guy is a new player, or this guy missed the event, something like that, something to set the people apart, something that doesn't translate in direct power, that it's just for show. Well, I already got my 27. Right on. See, and this is how you finish. I need what? 7 heroic missions? Yes. Well, I'm digressing again. We need something. And I hate to do this, but Unchained, DC Unchained, it's another game entirely. It's from another company. It has an entirely different gameplay. But the difference is this. On July, they released the Mystics. It's called Sentinels of Magic. And it's making the roster on Unchained look very similar to DC Legends, because Sentinels of Magic introduced Captain Marvel, Black Adam, Enchantress, Satana, and Eclipso. That's one guy we don't have. But they also included another chapter for the story mode. And now in November that they released another patch that they introduced the Cosmic family, and the Cosmics are Martian Manhunter, Starfire, Lobo, Blackfire, who I don't know who that is, and Queen Bee, who I also don't know who that is, but they are new. That's 5 characters in a single month. Of course, they don't have a legendary look, but they also added another chapter to the story mode, and it's all grind. It's a carrot on a stick, and they just move the carrot farther away. But they did introduce another chapter, and it's cool. I enjoy it a whole lot most of the time. I would say 90% of the time. When we get a new monthly event, there is new dialogue, and I have this theory that everything is happening on the same night. because in the event today we are again at LexCorp Industries. When Cyborg Superman was released, he was trapped inside the building, and we haven't used that map in ages. But that's when Livewire showed up. But when Power Girl was released, we were again around the same LexCorp building, but we didn't go inside. The whole event was outside, and there was this thing about Power Girl babysitting Superboy. But now that Zod was released, there is a mention again by Superman that they shouldn't worry about Superboy because he is being babysat by Power Girl. So everything is the same story. We have been playing 2 years and it's still the same night, the same story. We need another carrot, like for yesterday, for last year. We need another carrot. It's impossible to believe, even through, I'm aware that Warner Bros. San Francisco is a very small team, that the company that is making DC Unchained has found the time to make models for over 50 characters in less than a year, has introduced 10 more characters. That is more or less what DC Legends does, 2 characters per month, even so they started with 3 characters per month because it was 1 PvP character, 1 monthly event for free, and 1 full paywall character. And they reduced that to just 1 through monthly event and 1 through PvP and reworks, whatever. But that's basically the same amount of characters in a year that DC Legends has done, and they are threatening to release another family in the next couple of months, or to increase the size of the families that they are already there. And that's 5 characters per family. DC Unchained has been on the market for little over a year, or less than a year, because it started on February this year, so it's been less than a year that it's been live, at least in Asia, and they are nearing 70 characters available for play. So they are only 30 characters behind us in less than a year. And that game is grindy as fuck. I mean, really, you can't complain about DC Legends being grindy when there's DC Unchained out there, and it takes weeks just to max out a character. And I don't mean level. Level you can get easy in a week. But to max out their gear, their comic book covers, their skills, and the legendary look also has skills that you have to max out, and they use a different resource from the rest. And then there is the upgrades for the stats, because you get something to increase the stats, and you also have to grind for that. First you have to find the right one for your character, and then you have to upgrade 10 levels so you can reach a new stage of that mineral, and then again 10 levels, whatever. There are carrots galore on DC Unchained, but we need new carrots here, meaningful carrots on DC Legends. And Gear 12 is not going to be it. If they ever introduce something akin to Gear 12, it has to have a different resource needed that we can exchange or access materials to get the new one. We need a new story mode. we need some kind of boss fight because people have been asking for it. I also feel that this game is already in place where it needs some type of boss fight, but not for Alliance, because that only favors, and I don't say that because I am in a low Alliance. I score high enough that I can switch to one of the more relaxed Alliance. I just don't want to feel pressured to start this game. That's why I made my own. But if they do something that requires an Alliance, it's gonna have to be stupidly overpowered, because else everybody who is a whale is going to finish that boss on the same day. That's one of the differences and the reasons why we can't implement or ask the devs to implement stuff on DC Legends just because other games have them. We have to rethink the stuff that we want and accommodate to the players we have. And there is always going to be somebody who doesn't have a certain tune, and if you limit by tunes, then you leave a large part of the community out. And the only way to really separate, I feel, is through gear. Because if you can park on a certain gear on purpose, then you can start leagues by gear. And if some guys want to stay level 70 but gear 8, then they are free to play on the gear 8 leagues. And in the end, that will be more skillful, because characters don't behave the same at different gear sets. Gear 8 is very different from gear 9, and that's different from gear 10, since the speeds and the crit chances move up and down. Well, they always move up, but some guys that are slower at low gear end up being on the fast 10th once you have max gear. So we can have a league where fighting for the top spot is meaningful for me or for you, because it will demonstrate that you are the best on your category. You are the best from the gear 8s, you are the best from the gear 9s. And the rewards should scale accordingly. Leave the current ladder like it is, maybe increase the prices on the lower end, but make the current Wraith arena be the gear 11 arena, and then start designing prices for a gear 10 arena and a gear 9 arena and a gear 8 arena. And then after gear 8, because I have shown you, you can make level 40 in a week. And within 2 weeks you can be geared to 8 if you really set yourself to it. So below gear 8, it's open season. That's the new sidekick. Gear 7 and down, that whole lot of players, it's their own league. And maybe first place on the sidekick league only gives you 150 shards, and they go down from there. So there's an incentive to gear up to compete for better prices. That's what DC Unchained does. That's pretty much what every other damn game out there does. They give you a carrot to chase, and the only way to chase the carrot is to reach the top end of the ladder. That means that you have to have your max enchantments, max gear, max skills, the best meta chasing character. There is one game I used to play that I left because it's now stupid with all the carrots that I have to chase. And that was Critica, the White Knights. That thing encourages you to spend a lot of money getting costumes. Because the more costumes that you get for all your characters, the more power you have. You can get the costumes as a free player, earning currency through PvP and through alliance and through boss fights, through survival mode, but it's very slow. But meanwhile, I don't know, it had the usual gray equipment is garbage, green equipment is just not so garbage, blue equipment is less garbage, and purple is best than garbage, and orange is the pinnacle. Then they moved to add red gear, which will be our when we got gear 11. But then you could keep enchanting your gear, and then you got a pet, and then you get the costumes, and then you get the you get to level up all over again from the beginning, because you got a new skin. Now your character has 8 senses instead of 7, and you're going to fight for the 9th sense. Stupid shit like that. Every other game has it, except DC Legends. But for example, if I want to participate in Critica nowadays, they am very gimped, and I can't compete anymore because my gear is very low. It used to be on the top end, but now what used to be the top end isn't anymore, so I have to keep grinding. And that's what we don't have. We don't have a reason. I will, if I ever return to Critica, I will have a reason to keep upgrading my gear, because I will do better on PvP, and that will allow me to earn more currency. And if I get more currency, then I can buy more costumes. And if I get more costumes, I get more power, and I do even better on PvP, and I get even more currency, and I finish my survival faster, and I do more damages to the alliance bosses. So I get more alliance currency that grants me a special costume that you can get anywhere else. So there's a reason for me to push for the top end, and that's what we lack on DC Legends. There is no incentive for any player to go out of their comfort zone. And if people don't get out of their comfort zone, then the game gets stale and there is less skill needed. And the people that pushed for the high end get frustrated. I am starting to get frustrated because I can't pick whoever I want. I know there is a point in the game where you have to fight the meta, but I'm not even fighting the meta, and I'm getting outscored by people who haven't even finished the damn game. I mean, look at this. I can stay here at the start of chapter 4. Why? There is no incentive for me to go all the way up here, because if I finish all my 30 heroic missions every day, even though I'm not going to be making a lot of essence, if I do it every day, I get at least 9 million essence per month. But if I'm going to stay level 49 in all my characters, if I'm going to stay level 49 and gear 8, I'm going to be able to score 2 top 5k on PvP. And that means that I get at least rank 5 PvP characters. But I don't have to do anything else because everybody else I'm going to get eventually. Because I'm going to be able to finish my red alerts with no problem every day. So maybe in 5 or 6 months when I have already maxed, it's not that short a time, believe me. But in 6 months when I already have a legendary 2 Deadshot Higher Gun, and I have legendary 2 Captain Cold, and I have legendary 2 Killer Frost, and I have legendary 2 Camo without ever farming a Camo. And when I have legendary 2 Swamp Thing and a legendary 2 Solomon Grundy, I just have to worry about the missions for the Alliance, and then I'm going to have all these other guys. I'm going to have a Martian Manhunter, I'm going to have a Penguin, a Black Adam. Now I don't even have to finish the story mode to reach Heroic 8 to farm Black Adam. I don't have to farm Black Adam anymore. I can buy him here. And I get access, unrestricted access to all of these guys. I don't even have to farm Matt Jester. I don't have to farm Wonder Woman DOJ anymore. I don't have to reach story mode 5 to farm Dr. Fate because I have access to Dr. Fate, who is a very good character. Now I have access to Enchantress too, once I am in an alliance. There is no incentive for the guys to play. Now, imagine you are a guy like me who has a level 80 account and who has finished the story mode, has been maxed out for a year and a half. And you don't have anything else to do because there is nothing else to do. Because the devs have made this game so newbie friendly that now the newbies don't even have to finish the damn game. So what is more unfair? If they add a chapter 9 and a chapter 10 that requires gear 10 to finish chapter 9 and gear 11 to finish chapter 10, and that gives you I don't know if what would you do if the last node of Heroic 10 was John Constantine? And it had a 100% chance of dropping his shards. What if one of the other nodes was Power Girl or was Etrigan on chapter 10? But here's the kicker. But you have to get to gear 11. And you have to actually build a different team that is not PvP worthy because you are going to need heavy sustain to survive with gear 11 on chapter 10. People would gear up. And that's how other games do it. PvP you can enter anytime. But in order to get the good stuff, you have to first have a character that is able to farm the whole of PvE consistently, efficiently. And then you start building your PvP character. So they force you, quote unquote, to build a toon that maybe you don't actually like, but that's the gateway to get the things you actually want for PvP if you are inclined to PvP. or you can stay on PvE every time. What about if Chapter 10 Heroics was the same character always for a week? All the nodes are the same character, but you only get drops once. And you can't speed force. And you need gear 11 to finish Heroic 10. Because you can do the stupid shenanigans of building a specific level 50 gear 8 team, and you bullshit your way through the event. Like the White Sinestro and the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow event I liked a lot. I just wasn't able to bring another character to Gear 11 to finish because I didn't have Batgirl built. And I kicked myself in the ass because not having a Batgirl built costed me a legendary for Scarecrow for free. And that was a very, very fun event. I enjoyed that event a lot. It could have been better, yes. But it was awesome nevertheless. And I really kicked myself in the butt for doing that. The Solomon Grundy one, they again caved in and they made it easier. Because instead of pushing people to go up in level and gear, no, let's make it sufficiently easier that a guy with a 2-month-old account and some legendaries can do it. Why? There is always the option of the wallet. You can always use the wallet. There are some countries that you can't, but life is unfair. I wasn't able to play the last day of the Larfleeze PvP, so I couldn't bring him to Legendary 3. I'm missing like 12 shards. Where's my compensation? I'm not expecting any because it's my fault. Or what if my phone broke? What if the energy was cut? What if an asteroid hit the Earth? You simply can't justify people, the poor people. The poor player is not able to finish. Well, that's what set players apart. And if the game is not entirely about the skill, then it has to be a coding point. Like, I mean, even Mechanical Attraction has that. That you have to be this tall to go up in a mechanical game. And it's always around 1.5 meters or something. I don't know. I think it's 4 feet in the weird measure system that the gringos have. Or 5 feet? I don't know. That's not important. There has to be a cutoff. And yes, the monthly Zune is free. But like I have demonstrated with the video, you don't need to go that far to get at least a legendary one. All you have to do is get your gears. And then there comes in a few days it's going to be the second week of the event. And that's when, see, this is the thing. If I am an established player who has most of the roster unlocked and has a decent size of a roster built, Some for PvP, some for red alerts, and some specifically for the monthly events. I believe I should be able, as an established player, to do whatever I want. Because I can go for a Legendary 5. I could have gotten a Legendary 5 General Sod, but I chose not to. I'm going to go just to Legendary 4. And there are some guys in my roster like Penguin and Enchantress, who I regret not bringing to Legendary 4. Kid Flash, who I wanted to bring him Legendary 4, but I didn't want to bother doing his PvP week. I'm waiting for an event. And some others of the monthly tunes. I left Batman Beyond. I also didn't see the point of getting him Legendary 4. Now I see maybe he's Legendary, maybe, in my opinion, he's Legendary 5 worthy. But he's going to get an eventual PvP week or a small sale or a heroic challenge event, perhaps. I have him gear 11, just in case. But I originally only pushed for Legendary 3. Some guys I wasn't able, like Captain Cold, originally many people weren't able to bring him above Legendary 2. And even getting him Legendary 1 was very, very difficult because of the restricted list. But that's us, the established players. And of course a whale can always just buy the goddamn packages and get a Legendary 5 on day 1. But that's the prerogative of a whale. The prerogative of the free player who has a deep roster is to choose to go Legendary 5 or just finish the event twice and get a free Legendary 3. But that's something we can do because we have the characters needed. I'm not saying that new players should be forbidden from getting a high legendary character, but I'm positive that it shouldn't be easy if they are new players. Because if a guy with a month-old account like this one I'm showing you right now, a guy who has this type of roster that is almost 4 weeks old, and I already have a rank 4 General Sod, I'm certain I'm going to be able to get to Legendary 2 with him. And if I get my tunes to gear 8 or 9, I'm going to be able to get a Legendary 3. Look. Watch. This is my roster right now. Well, Superman, because they gave him away. So now there is less incentive for me to finish the story mode, because once you finish story mode on normal and heroic, you get a rank 4 Superman. Now I don't have to. And I got lucky with my void scanner, and I got Mirror Master. But look, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 31 characters out of 100. I have already unlocked 1/3 of the full roster. Even though they are not legendary, many of them will be. And eventually I'm going to be able to bring Livewire, Cheetah, Killer Frost, Robin, Castaway, Princess of Themyscira, Black Adam, Dr. Fate, Arceus, Schmook, Vixen, Ares, Who else? Some of these at least. Katana. Katana. Medfield. Enchantress. Penguin. Poison Ivy. I'm going to be able to bring them to legendary. It will just take time. So maybe a new player has unrestricted access to half of the roster, some 45 characters that he will be able to bring to legendary level without investing money, just investing time. And do whatever they want. There has to be incentives for us, for the new players, because if you are doing the same stuff every day without change, it becomes monotonous. And once it becomes monotonous, it becomes boring. And when it becomes boring, people leave and people stop spending. I would advise Warner Brothers to really, really watch their whales. I don't give a damn. I haven't invested a cent in this game because this game hasn't made me spend money. There is not a single package in the store that has any value to me. Maybe if they introduced, I am about to spend some money on DC Unchained because they have an upgrade that you can buy once a month that is $5, I believe, and that lets you collect stuff passively. Like, for example, if it were implemented here on DC Legends, you will have your Void Collector and your Void Scanner, and if you bought this upgrade, you will be able to store the rolls. Like, once the collector is full, it will store that full collector somewhere. And once you get back in the game, you can collect all the stored voids. For example, this one that says it stores 10,000 essence maximum, and it stores 1,000 and change per hour. So it takes 8 hours, I believe, to fill completely. So you will only need to return in-game once every 24 hours and you will get the 3 collectors at once. So you will get 30,000 essence per day. But if you went 3 or 4 days without logging in, then you will get all the essence collectors. You wouldn't lose anything by not logging. And your Void Scanner, the same. It will save the rolls for every day, or it will give you the random rolls of every day you didn't log in. You will get them all at once. And for example, you will be able to automate the red alerts and to collect the rewards automatically. And that's something that I value because it keeps me from logging into the game. So I can set the dispatches on DC Unchained, and now I only have to play once a day for the events and my PvP. That's something I would invest on. In other games, I have bought the currency package. You know, the ones that gives you, for example, 200 gold in advance, and then you get 20 gold every day. So you get 800 gold at the end of the month, plus whatever you can make from the game. That's why I haven't invested on DC Legends, because the shards are very expensive for what they give you. And I'm digressing again. We have made many points. None of them taken to the end, but we have talked about many things. And that's the thing. That's the thing. We need something on DC Legends to keep us, the old players, around. And they have to give incentives to the new players to reach to the point where they can compete hand to hand with the older players. Because really, once you reach above top 1000 on the PvP ladder, you start seeing the same people over and over, and that's what makes it repetitive for the older players too. You start seeing the same people over and over and over, and since it's meta chasing all the time, you see the same team over and over and over. And there comes a point when you don't want to see, but even if you have the tools to do it, you don't want to see another Atrocitus team, and you don't want to see another Bad Girl team that also has Atrocitus in it. You just don't, because it is boring. So Warner Brothers San Francisco, this is something that also many people choose to ignore. It's not Warner Brothers Games, the company. It's Warner Brothers San Francisco, the subsidiary. They are just on mobile. It's not Warner Brothers, the parent company. It's not the guys making the movies. It's not the guys making the Arkham series, because that's Rocksteady, I believe. And Warner Brothers just publishes. It's WB San Francisco. We have to make it clear to these guys. We have to channel things to the devs in a constructive manner. Calling them idiots, calling them lazy, calling them greedy is not constructive. Realize they are a very small team. And by very small, I mean they don't have 200 people in their company working on the code. There is only so much these guys can make, so we should make it clear collectively that we are fine if we don't get 2 new characters for next month, or maybe in 2 or 3 months. It's okay if they take some time from releasing new tunes. That has been posted, that has been asked for, but individually. Several people have proposed the same thing over the past 2 years. Take some time off releasing new characters. Maybe marketing won't allow them. Maybe the producer won't allow the game because the producer has a vision that they have to release characters every month. I don't know what's easier. If coming up with this, the heroic challenges that last 1 week, because everything is refurbishing assets every month. The last really new stage we got was the Gotham Police Department stage, and then they put snow on it for Christmas. and they uh, hung light on the trees and stuff. That was pretty neat. It was during the Penguin release. uh, I don't know what's harder to do, if to make a single character or to make a stage. I remember those are pretty laborious things that take a lot of time. Uh, Not the models, but uh, painting the textures and programming the shaders for the materials. That takes a lot of time. Um, but since we haven't really gotten any new stages, that means they aren't making models for the stages. So that means they're only making the characters, and if it takes the same amount of time for them to make a character and make a stage, then please guys, refrain from releasing more characters. Focus on adding a new story stage. Make the stage sufficiently harder that it forces people to upgrade to gear 10 and gear 11. Test it out. I can give you this idea for free. Make the drops 100% for the day, but make it so that you can't use Speed Force to run the stages again on the same day, or just make the drop once per day. If it's going to be the norm, like the heroic stage 8, that I believe it's 16 nodes, that's only 16 shards per day. Yes, make it 100%, but only one shard. So it takes time, and it forces people in a way to come up with teams to be able to finish that. And or something like that, something that we have to strive for. I mean, I will take it even if it was a completely random shard, like any of the 100 characters. You can get any shard from anybody, but program it so that it checks for maxed out characters. So you only get characters that you don't have maxed out yet. And if you say, well, that only benefits the whales, well, the whales are the guys that are making the game possible in a way. So yeah, I think there are people that are happy with their 5,000 shards for Cyborg. And before you tell me it's impossible that some people have that much, people used to PvP a whole lot before, a lot more. And there are guys that have like 8,000 or 10,000 shards for Batman TDK because he used to be the board clear. And since there was no incentive to refresh boards, people with max tunes back then just blindly cleared board after board after board endlessly, and they add over time. It's just 5 shards, but if you clear 100 boards, that's 500 shards. There are ways to make this game worthwhile. And I believe this game should evolve. The base game is awesome. Devs, please start building up from there, because we need it. We want it as players. Before this video becomes 2 hours long, I'm telling all of you goodbye. Thank you for sticking to the end. If you stuck to the end, leave a like, subscribe, click on the bell to get notifications when I upload again. It's a pleasure to rant for you. I think some of you enjoy it because I have been getting a steady influx of new audience So I'm going to stick around here, and I'm really going to start uploading DC on-chain videos this week. Without further ado, I thank you for your time, and I invite you to return for the next video. We'll be seeing each other next time. Keep grinding on.